أعزائي المستمعين، يبدو أنه العطل التقني تم إصلاحه وسنكون مباشرة على الهواء مع اللقاء مع السفيرة الكندية ولو الوقت اختصر، ولكن خلينا نطلع سوا على الهواء. Today we have the privilege of welcoming Her Excellency Stéphanie Mokولم, the Canadian Ambassador to Lebanon, to our morning show. Ambassador Mokولم has been a dedicated advocate for Canadian interests and the safety of Canadians abroad, especially during these challenging times. With escalating tensions in the Middle East, the Canadian government issued an advisory earlier this summer urging Lebanese Canadians to reconsider traveling to Lebanon. We'll delve deeper into the reasons behind this advisory, the current situation on the ground, and what it means for our community here in Canada and those with ties to Lebanon, all what's happening. Ambassador Mokولم, thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Lania. Thank you so much for having me.
Ambassador Mokولم, while the Canadian government travel advisory for Lebanon has been clear, considering the ongoing instability in the region, do you foresee this advisory remaining in place for the foreseeable future? And what criteria will the Canadian government use to reassess and potentially lift the advisory?
Yes, it's a good question. Our travel advisories are always reevaluated and evolve with the situation on the ground in the country that they applied to. And so certainly we keep watching for indicators that would impact our travel advisory for Lebanon. Right now, we don't envision any short-term changes based on the situation. It remains volatile. It remains fragile. The conflict continues along the southern border of Lebanon every day and has the risk to escalate. And so our travel advice for now stays the same, and in the short term, I expect it will. Your question about longer term is a good one. We have been urging for a ceasefire. We have been urging for the release of hostages and the delivery of humanitarian aid into Gaza. We believe a ceasefire in Gaza would bring a ceasefire along the border of southern Lebanon, and that would restore some calm. And if this calm became longer lasting, certainly it would be something we would look at as a potential reason for changing our advice.
Ambassador Mokولم, I have no doubt that the Canadian government knows that Lebanese Canadians have strong emotional and familial ties to Lebanon. Therefore, some of them need to go or stay there for different reasons. So how is Canada preparing for a potential large-scale evacuation of its citizens from Lebanon, and what are the key challenges faced in this preparation?
You're absolutely right. There are strong emotional and familial attachments, and we really do understand that. Nonetheless, our travel advice is based on the risk, and we believe that there's a risk that Canadians choosing to travel, regardless of the advice, could potentially be putting themselves in an emergency situation. We do try to acknowledge that some Canadians don't have a choice. In that case, if they're not going to abide by our travel advice, we have been saying that they should not assume the government of Canada will be able to assist them, because although we have plans, we may not be able to enact them. And we have been providing some specific advice, in particular to those Canadians who are resident here, to prepare to shelter in place for long periods of time, to ensure they have adequate emergency supplies in their homes, whether that's extra food and water, it could be medication, whatever they may need to shelter in place for long periods of time, and to prepare themselves for the impact of a potential emergency. So that's how we've been acknowledging that some Canadians don't have a choice.
Your Excellency, given the current economic and political crisis in Lebanon, what support is available for Lebanese Canadians who may be evacuated but face financial challenges in resettling in Canada? How is the Canadian government addressing the needs of those who may not have the means to return to Canada?
So there are a variety of options for those Canadians. So the Canadians, principally the Canadians that we see here through the embassy, are able to manage within their financial means, whether that's for passport renewals or notarial services, etc. So some do have those financial means. Some have access through family or friends, so personal loans are always an option. And in the worst case scenarios, we do help Canadians take a look for those private sources, or the Government of Canada can look at their eligibility for a repatriation loan. There are certain conditions for those. They have to be repaid within 30 days, etc. But in a last resort situation, we'll do our best to help the Canadians who have varying needs, of course.
I have no doubts as well regarding the ways you are using and the channels to communicate with the citizens, the Canadian citizens in Lebanon regarding any potential changes in the situation. But given Canada's role as a global mediator, what are your thoughts, Your Excellency, on the potential for international diplomacy to resolve the ongoing tensions in the Middle East?
Thank you, Rania. You're right that communicating with Canadians in the region is really important for us. We encourage them to register in ROCA. We're very active on our social media channels, including X and Facebook. We send messages and emails. We work with our warden network. And this is a way to keep them informed and let them know what our position is, what is and is not possible. And hopefully they'll see a lot of the activities at official levels, as you mentioned, at all levels, whether that's here in Lebanon or writ large in the region with my ambassadorial colleagues in other countries, urging for de-escalation, urging for that ceasefire, encouraging the release of hostages, the delivery of required humanitarian assistance. In Lebanon, it means once de-escalation occurs, looking at the full implementation of United Nations Security Council Resolution 1701. So you'll see activity from our Prime Minister, from our Foreign Minister, from other federal ministers, ambassadors, and even my colleagues here at the embassy. Every opportunity we get, we urge for de-escalation and a longer-term peace and stability for the region, for sure.
Ambassador Mokولم, last question. I'm settled in Montreal. I know how active you are on the ground in the Lebanese community in Beirut and all the other regions. Looking ahead, what are your hopes for the future of Lebanon, and how do you see the country overcoming the current challenges and achieving long-term stability?
You're absolutely right. There's a deep attachment between our two countries. The people-to-people ties are very strong, and we do feel that closeness between us, whether that's 70 years of diplomatic relations this year or the fact that we also here celebrate November as Lebanese Heritage Month. Those people-to-people connections are really important. And for our focus is on making Lebanon as stable and secure and prosperous as possible for the Lebanese and Canadian Lebanese who are here. And that means the election of a president. That means the implementation of reforms that are needed to strengthen and rebuild Lebanon's economy so that it can prosper and be stable for future generations. So it's very much a hope that we have a president, a government committed to reforms, an independent judiciary, and with those, we believe that stability and economic prosperity will return, and the Lebanese and Canadian Lebanese will return as well and make it a prosperous and bright future for Lebanon.
Thank you, Ambassador Mokولم, for sharing your insights and updates with us today. Your perspectives are invaluable. We appreciate your time and dedication to ensuring the safety and well-being of Canadians and Lebanese Canadians abroad.
Shukran, Rania.
Shukran.
Bye.